How's it going, book bros? I'm Belchi, and this is a book. Coincidentally, it's the same book that we're going to be talking about today. That's right, the time has come. We're talking about Steven Erikson's sixth book in the Malazan saga, The Bonehunters. Yes, what a title, The Bonehunters. And oh boy, what a book. What a book. All right, look at me in the eyes. What a book. But the question remains, is it better than Midnight Tides? Well, book bros, we are about to find out. I've missed talking about books dearly, so I'm back, and let's get started. All right, book bros, it's official. We have reached the point where Malazan gets real. Malazan feels like it's entering its end game now, and oh boy, I did not expect half of the things that happened in this book. Oh my god. Erikson doesn't waste any time. He throws you into some pretty big things pretty quick, and if you don't follow the 10 Very Big Books podcast, I personally do, and if you're a Malazan fan, I think you should check them out. But they did an interview with Steven Erikson after Midnight Tides. They read Midnight Tides, and he said in that interview that The Bonehunters is really two books thrown together, but nobody ever really notices or cares. And he's got a good point. Yes, this at times does feel like it is two books thrown and mashed in with one another, but I barely noticed, and that in itself is an achievement, especially for something of this scale. Hearing that, I really thought I would feel it going into this book, but I didn't at all. I noticed that yes, these are two kind of separate plots kind of coming together, but it was done in a very masterful way. I have to say that. Another thing I've really enjoyed about this book is the pacing. House of Chains was largely a problem for me because of its pacing, and I don't think I made that clear in my review. But I didn't vibe with how slow that book went at times. This book moves extremely fast, as does Midnight Tides. Midnight Tides kind of upped that pacing for me, and this goes a mile a minute at times, and I loved it. Erikson starts throwing you into situations and some battles and some downright horrific events very early. And yes, in typical Malazan fashion, there's a bit of a break after those events, and things do slow down. But they pick up again really quick because, like I said, it happens really early in the book. It's like this Malazan end level event happening in like chapter 6. And then I was like, well, what's the rest of the book? There has to be another Malazan end-level event, and there is. So Bonehunters is kind of an enigma, because yes, it's two books mashed together, but that means you also get two of those epic scale battles in one book, and oh my goodness. The Siege of Yucatan? The Siege of Yucatan? Oh! Alright, yes. I have to make mention of chapter 6 in this book. And for those who have read it, you probably know why. For those who have not, chapter 6 holds one of the best Malazan scenes I've ever read. It's gripping, it's horrific, it's funny at times, and it's over 100 pages long in this copy, but I couldn't stop reading it. In fact, it's the longest amount I've read a Malazan book in one sitting. And hearing Steven Erikson say that it was my intention to make readers sit through this one, to grab them and make them sit. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it makes me love him as a writer all the more. Another thing that I really enjoyed about Bonehunters is the sense of convergence. Midnight Tides had a little bit of that pushing things together, but Bonehunters does a lot of it. We see character reunions that I've been waiting for a very long time, and I didn't think I was going to get them this soon. We've had, and this book holds just a lot of things and events happening at once. I can't really talk about any of it because it's book 6, of course, but there's just a lot that I've been waiting for to happen, and to see things start to come together. I hate to make this comparison, but this felt like the Avengers of Malazan. Things are finally clicking into place, and they're all going to start working together. One problem I had with the plot, though, was the ending. Erickson, what are you doing? What are you building towards? Because right now, it's a little frustrating for me, because I should be able to see a little bit of where you're going. And hey, again, maybe I'm just dumb, but I just have no idea where you might be taking this. Overall, the plot, I think Bonehunters can feel a little cramped at times. Like, there is a lot to keep track of, and you're never spending a whole lot of time with any one character. But there are some beautiful, beautiful moments packed into this book, and even though you're jumping around very quickly, it's done very methodically, and it's not jarring. Erickson knows what he's doing, and you're in good hands when you get here. Cramped feeling aside, I think Bonehunters offers one of the best plots in fantasy that I've come across, period. Unfortunately, it all relies on your understanding of Malazan and your feelings on Malazan thus far, but wow, does it ever feel worth it? When little old Luke back in February was struggling with Deadhouse Gates, it feels a lot more worth it now, and that's all you really need to hear. Alright, so Bonehunters is pushing this massive, large-scale plot, but what about the characters? Are they left on the side, or are they handled well? Long story short, these characters are handled exceptionally in this book. I found myself falling in love with the Bonehunters, the 14th. In House of Chains, I found that I was having a hard time getting used to people who weren't the bridge burners. Well, Erickson plays a long game. I think you're not supposed to like them in House of Chains right off the bat. And I feel like if I went back and reread that book now, I would love it a lot more. Because the character work done in this book, wow. One thing I've come to really appreciate about Erickson's character work is every time something happens with one character, I'm always thinking about how that affects their relationships with the other characters. What would the other characters think? How would the other characters react, you know? And that's the sign of a great writer, is when you're thinking about these relationships like they're real, like you would be part of them, like you're a third party watching two friends kind of do things behind each other's backs. And that, I had a moment reading this book where I kind of sat back and was like, wait, these people aren't real. Why do I feel this way? And that's exactly what I wanted from Malazan. I needed to wait and let Erickson do his thing. There are a lot of character POVs in this one, so I'm just gonna talk about a few that stood out to me personally. Of course, I gotta check in with my boy Cutter. Where House of Chains POV left off, I was pretty cautious, because I'm like, great, now Cutter's with a bunch of characters I don't really enjoy. But, holy moly, Cutter had some pretty, what's the word for it? Traumatic experiences. Traumatic, that's the word I'm looking for. And there's some stuff that happened that made me really, really happy, and there's some stuff that made my jaw just drop, because what? Just picture a bunch of hands in the sky. Yeah. Yeah, new readers, people who haven't read Malazan, think on that one. Hands in the sky. What? That's what you guys sound like. What? When I first picked up Gardens of the Moon, if you had come and told me that Ganos Paran would become the person he is in this book, I would have laughed at you. I would have laughed you out of my house. I would have giggled and tittered and ha 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 you out the door, okay? But oh my goodness, the dude's a badass. He kind of just walks around going bam, bam, changing the world, baby. Like, what? Of course, I can't read a book with Karsa Orlong in it and not talk about Karsa Orlong because he's one of the coolest characters I've ever read. And this book kind of starts out with Karsa just doing his thing. And I was kind of confused because I'm like, everybody says Karsa's this big force in Malazan, and this book kind of just starts with him walking around a city and finding a witch. But then Erikson does something really, really cool, and all he had to do was write like just one little description sentence about people that Karsa came in contact with, and I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I screamed. I literally screamed. Alright, so overall, Bonehunters is a fairly amazing piece of work. It manages to pull off a lot and do it gracefully too. Things are starting to feel very cohesive in the Malazan universe, more so than ever before. And I love that feeling. I love when things start coming together. It makes me feel really good inside. It gives me a nice little warm fuzzy feeling. And especially since I've been asking questions that have been answered now even, that I've been asking since like book 2. Like, the catharsis. That's what this series should be called. Catharsis, Book of the Fallen. Alright, book bros, I thank you for watching my video today. If you've read Bonehunters, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. And if you haven't read Bonehunters, let me know if I've convinced you to pick up Malazan at all in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you, book bros, so please do drop a line in the comments. And while you're down there, if you like what I do, maybe consider subscribing, maybe like this video. If you like the video. If you don't like the video, there's also a thumbs down. Feel free to press that too. With all that being said, I will catch you on the flip side. Take care, book bros.